viewers, I'm back for another movie review. Warner Bros. Have released their new film Mortal Kombat, which is a live-action adaptation of the video games by the same title. The movie plot follows the same plot as the video games. 6 realms exist in this fictional universe. These realms were created by the Elder Gods, and they have established the rule that if one realm desires to conquer another realm, the chosen warriors from each realm, the chosen warriors from each realm must fight 10 Mortal Kombat tournaments, and whoever wins gets the right to conquer the other realms. The main characters are representing the Earth realm. They have been chosen to protect Earth, and each of them have distinct superpowers. The protagonists fit into a very predictable hero's journey. They discover that they are the chosen ones. They are not very sure about themselves at first, and only after going into the edge that they decide to become brave and fulfill their purpose. You have the main guy who's not sure about himself. You have the strong, independent woman. And then you have the comedic relief. They tried really hard to make this guy funny. He just wouldn't stop making jokes in every single line he said. The jokes were oversaturated, and it didn't help that they weren't funny. I hate this current trend in modern action movies where the writers think that it's necessary to insert comedy in every single dialogue because they are trying to be like the Marvel movies. It's overdone and it ruins the audience's experience from having deep emotional connection to these characters. So yeah, the characters are very typical and the dialogues were very cliche. But I can sort of overlook it because this franchise does not revolve around the characters. What made the video games popular was the fighting. It was all about the combats. This movie has great combat scenes. They do well in that area. I like how they showed the gore and violence, fatalities that they had in the video games. The special effects looked very realistic, especially when Sub-Zero was using his powers to manipulate ice and freeze anything, showed us some spectacular shots. What I liked the most about this movie was the music scores. The original soundtracks played during the battle scenes made the combats feel more threatening and epic. One problem I had with the fighting scenes were the cuts. There were way too many cuts, which is a shame because they were shot in great angles, but every move had a cut and you just couldn't see the details of what was going on, at least for me. The fighting scenes would have been far more epic if they were filmed in one shot from an eye-level view. That way it would resemble how the combats are shot in the video games and you would see every detail and it would have had a more dramatic effect. Overall, I think that this movie is not brilliant in any way as a movie, but I think that it's good for what it is as an adaptation from a video game. It's hard to adapt video games into movies and do it well because whereas movies are mainly based on characters, video games are mainly based on the gameplay. That's not to say that story is not important in video games. It is. And you see a change now in modern video games where they are becoming more like movies. Whether or not that's a good thing, that's a topic for another discussion. But the sole focus of video games is the gaming mechanics. Especially a game like Mortal Kombat where it had very little story. It was more about playing the game. In order for movies to be good, they require deep emotional characters. So when you mix two separate entertainment mediums, they're usually not executed well. And that's why most video game movies fail. It's the same thing with movies adapted from books. They have different ways of telling stories, and when you mix them together, it doesn't represent the source material well. Not all the time, but usually. The story was rushed and the characters were very one-dimensional. They did the combats well. What made this movie interesting was the tension between Scorpion and Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero stood out the most. He was intimidating, and the final confrontation between them two was a great payoff. One final thing, they could have dived in more into the lore and mythology of this universe. It, it was explained through the characters, but it was very brief. It seems like they were relying on people already being familiar with the video games so that they didn't have to explain it all in the film. But for those that didn't play the video games, the mythology was explained very vaguely. If the lore was explored in more detail, it would have made the story more interesting. But the creators used the popularity of the video games as an excuse to be lazy. That's my honest review for the movie Mortal Kombat. Tell me what you guys think. Did you like or not like the movie? Do you think it was a good representation of the video games? Share your opinions if you want to, and thank you for watching.